And we are rolling on October 24th. Are you sick? Can you sit somewhere else? Because I don't want to get sick. So get back. Thank you. I'm not. I don't mean any disrespect. I just don't want to get sick. I have too many people depending on me to be well. Okay. Thank you. I don't like coughers. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So we are rolling on October 24th in COM 103, where we are hearing extemporaneous speeches, and we're about to hear one from Leonard Yang. Specifically, the question is, what do the pro-Trump, anti-Trump, is this the actual topic?
That's the actual topic. I reworded it a little bit.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do that. Okay, this wasn't in the topic. Okay, by the way, so note to everybody, don't reword the topic you were given. Riots in Berkeley indicate about the state of political discourse in our country.
I reworded it a little bit in my thesis, but it's the same question. Just
yeah, well, don't reword. You're not allowed to reword it at all.
Okay.
So it's
all right. I'll
future.
I can just read the topic.
Future warning. Yeah. So once again, pro-Trump, anti-Trump, so-called riots in Berkeley. Tell us about the state of political discourse in our country. And we are rolling.
Let me get a show of hands. How many of you guys go to Starbucks regularly?
I work there.
Well, let me tell you a story about my girlfriend, who's a student at UC Berkeley and a regular at the only Starbucks in Berkeley, California. The morning after a typical protest, she got out of bed, walked into town hoping for a hot cup of coffee, but when she got to the Starbucks, she found it ransacked and destroyed. Someone even stole their espresso machine. She immediately texted me asking me why someone would do this. Who could be so cruel that they would destroy a coffee shop that has nothing to do with their beliefs or what they're protesting? Why would they do this? I mean, it's just a Starbucks. We find ourselves asking these why questions a lot lately. Why would you hit someone with your car just because they have a different political belief than you? Why would you burn down a student union building just because you're angry? Every day we turn on the news and we find ourselves asking these why questions. And these why questions are because our state of political discourse is that we have no political discourse. Today I want to answer the question, what do the pro-Trump Antifa riots in Berkeley indicate about the state of political discourse in our country? It indicates that there is no political discourse. In fact, this state of no political discourse can be summed up into three terms, which I'm going to expand on later in my speech. Resentment, division, and polarization. If you've been reading the paper lately, or if you get news updates on your phone, don't be proud of that, then you know that peaceful protesters are getting beaten up, pepper sprayed, and hit by cars just for expressing what they believe in. And when our First Amendment rights are under attack like that, it means that our state of political discourse is that we have no political discourse. The first reason for this is resentment. Basically, the past election angered a lot of people, and a lot of leftists were angry enough to the point where they no longer wanted to wait around for politics and the government to solve itself. They would rather see the world burn than see it change under the Trump administration. An article titled "Black-Clad Antifa Members Attack Right-Wing Demonstrators in Berkeley" by the Washington Post clearly shows the increasing rise of violence incited by the left.
Year?
In 2017. Although this extreme example doesn't represent the liberal left as a whole, it shows that certain people are no longer happy with waiting around for the politicians and the government to change things, and that these certain people want to take action into their own hands. Their motto is promoting liberty through violence. This is seen through the violence incited in the Berkeley protest, a result of deep hatred towards people with differing political beliefs. Secondly, our state of political discourse is divided. According to a study done by the Pew Research Center in 2015, 45% of all Democrats think that Republicans are distrustful, and nearly half of all Republicans feel that exact same way about Democrats. Not only that, but the PRC's polling data on the way Democrats and Republicans view specific political issues, such as gun control and climate change, are fairly similar. This shows that the divide in our country is not about certain issues, but about human behavior, specifically who you voted for. The last reason for our lack of political discourse is polarization. Merriam-Webster defines group polarization as the tendency for a group to make decisions that are more extreme than the initial inclination of its members. We can see this polarization already happening with the left. What used to be one big group is now starting to split into two: peaceful anti-Trump protesters and the black-clad Antifa, who's radicalized and wants to spread their message through violence and destruction. In summary, I have shown you 3 reasons why I believe that our current state of political discourse is resentful, divided, and polarized. So in conclusion, the state of our political discourse is that we have no political discourse. But why is this important? Well, democracy works when people's voices are heard. And when you're hitting people with cars and burning down student union buildings and ransacking coffee shops, you're not letting your voice be heard. You're not letting other people's voice be heard. You're letting those voices be silenced. So to take it back to the beginning, the next time someone asks a why question about the irrationality and violence in politics, just say, it's because our current state of political discourse is that we have no political discourse. And the next time you buy a hot cup of coffee, don't take it for granted.
Stand there for your feedback. Thank you, Leonard. Get back in the center of the room, please. Oh my, okay. Let's start in the rear. Yes, please.
Something good or something?
Something good, yeah. Stand up. Yeah.
I'm Elise.
Hi, Elise.
I thought your pacing was really good, and then like how it was really clear your 3 like bubbles and bullet points. So that was really easy.
Beautiful. Okay. Armand, are you done signing up?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
My name's Armand.
Hi, Armand.
This is something negative or constructive, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. The only thing I would say is you said sometimes. So that takes the engagement way down. You have to work to get it back. So just kind of focus on not using those filler words and you'll be okay.
Okay. Well, why don't you put the original question up on the board so we can talk about it in terms of what you were originally assigned. But in the meantime, let me remind all of you of some of the requirements of the Extemp topic. If you'll recall the model I showed you on Ferguson, you all recall that, right? I hope so. I hope you watched it numerous times. You can write it above, yeah. That young lady had numerous citations, fully cited, for each of her assertions, right? And I ask that you have one for each of your main points in your breakdown. Okay? And that would mean at least 3. So, and we learned from Mickey Garrell that we're learning to surf the deep internet, and so the more than 3, the merrier, and I'll be very happy. But, you know, we heard one from the Washington Post that we only learned later. It was from 2017 in a Pew Research poll. And that's not enough argument from authority to make the case. Okay. Now, what do the yes, you got a comment. Stand up, say your name, a question. Yes.
My name is Sumana.
Hi, Sumana. That's a pretty name.
Thank you. So the question I had was when we're doing research, and say we're trying to get more information about a basic topic, but not necessarily like news, just explaining the topic.
Yeah.
Is it okay if it's an older source?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that's Mickey talked about those series where you can do background readings and those encyclopedias and those different series that have for background reading. You can get a
I just
quick
wasn't
background.
sure if everything had to be less than like
No, and you can do your initial background reading from a source that's a little older to just get a good background on it. Second thing I want to remind you all of is I asked that you not bring a big piece of paper up there as your note card, but if you have to have a note card, and I prefer you not have one, that you use a note card and not a big piece of paper. Okay? Well, what do the pro-Trump Antifa riots in Berkeley indicate about the state of political discourse in our country? You added pro-Trump, anti-Trump to the question, right? And you felt you needed to add that in. And just explain to us why you needed to add that. You said, what do the pro-Trump / anti-Trump, and it's not.
Just to specify that the Antifa is
anti-Trump.
Is anti-Trump.
So you were just doing a little fining
I was
in
just,
the topic.
clarifying.
Okay, fair enough. Let's start with the intro. He told us about his girlfriend that worked in Berkeley at Starbucks, and when she went there to get a cup of coffee after the, I don't know what you call it, riots, insurrection, I don't know what the polite word is for, riots really, but, they called it something else. The uprising. It was burned down and gutted, And that was I thought, a really excellent intro to sort of suggest to us.
Should I stand up there?
Yeah, stand up there for your critique. I'm talking to a blank screen. Yeah, stand up there right in the center. Yeah, thank you. And I thought that was a grabber, a good introduction, and it got our attention, and it was good, and it was personal, and it suggested the extreme that the one group, the anti-Trump group, was going to, I call them anarchists, really what they are, and to make their point. And it means destroying capitalist establishments like Starbucks and university buildings and so forth. The last time this happened, I must tell you, when they burned down buildings in the 60s, the taxpayers soured on giving any more money to the University of California for many years. They said, okay, you can't control things at the University of California. You're not getting any new money for buildings or anything else. So there can be a real serious backlash from this kind of stuff. People don't like to see this violence and nastiness in the political arena. Yeah. So you said, I want to answer the question, what does the clash between the two indicate about the state of our political discourse? Now, when you look at this question, folks, I have to say, to be honest with you, you said that you made a very absolutist statement in your thesis, which you said, I say there's no political discourse. And I would suggest to you, you've overclaimed that, and that to take a fairly isolated situation like Berkeley, which is the sort of leftist, socialist, anarchist capital of the world, and generalize from that about an anti-Trump, anti-right-wing demonstration, and say that's typical of political discourse in the country, was a hasty generalization. Okay?
Okay.
So be careful about that. So I think that you needed to do some further research about,
Originally?
one of the reasons,
Originally, I wanted to mention Charlottesville, Portland, Washington, D.C., where there were other
Sure.
Antifa protests,
Yeah.
but I just didn't have the time to go through all that information.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, there have been protests around the country against President Trump, for sure. What is political discourse? And you're defining it as demonstrations, and others might consider political discourse to be what is occurring in the news media and editorials and in debates and in the coverage and that sort of thing. So I had some trouble with your definition of political discourse and your definition of political discourse of being defined in this one particular way. But you disagree or want to add something?
My name is Kelvin.
Hi, Calvin.
So what I wanted to say was, if that's the case, do you want us to include a definition section within the extemporaneous speech outline, similar to like you would in the debate?
If it's needed, yeah. If it's needed, yeah.
Okay.
If it's needed, yeah, sure. And so, for example, the political discourse, if it includes mass media coverage of our president and what he's doing, you might do some research on a recent Harvard study, and if you've heard about this one, that concluded that 93% of the coverage of President Trump's activity has been negative across the mass media, which is unprecedented. There's always been some criticism of President Obama, of every president, but they point out this has been unprecedented. So you could talk about political discourse being skewed by a bias in the news media. It would be another way to answer this question. Talk about it if you wanted to. If you wanted to do your analysis that way. You don't have to, but I'm just throwing out some ideas for you. Okay? But I don't think political discourse is just, riots only. It's just part of the discourse. Maybe it suggests that people are sort of tired of talking. Maybe that was your point.
Yeah, I should have defined it in the beginning, but for me, I was kind of comparing what's currently going on compared to like the past civil political discourse that we had.
Yeah. Okay.
But now people are, exchanging conversation and like healthy argument for burning things and beating people up.
Right. Okay. Now on your thesis preview, then, therefore, you want to make it clear that you want to say, so in my speech today, I'm going to have 3 points of analysis to prove there's no political discourse. And that's going to be through resentment, division, and polarization. You need to couch it that way, and I don't feel you couched it that way, nor do I feel your resentment, division, and polarization proved there was no political discourse. I think they were sort of tautological. They proved there is resentment, division, and polarization, but I don't think that proves anything except there's polarization, etc., etc. On your significance statement, what is a significant statement and what is it supposed to do, Leonard?
It's supposed to like bring significance and like really draw the attention in for the rest of the speech.
Not exactly. Can someone help Leonard with what a significant statement is supposed to do in the context of a speech? What's the significance? Because this is something people struggle with. Because what's a significant statement?
It's supposed to show why your topic is significant and critical, like in current news, I believe.
To whom, Leonard?
To us.
To us? To the audience. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you need to say that this question about the decline in political discourse, or what you claim is the non-existence in political discourse, is really significant to all of you. You should worry about all of that, all of you. Now, let's see if yours did that. You wrote, if you've been reading the paper lately, then you know peaceful protesters are getting beaten up, pepper sprayed, and hit by cars, or just expressing what they believe in. And when our First Amendment rights are under attack like that, it means that the state of political discourse is that we don't have any. That doesn't exactly say that what I'm about to talk about today is important to all of you, real overtly. You follow me?
Yeah, I was.
So be more overt and selling it to the audience and making it more significant to the audience.
Okay, I was in that point. I was just trying to generalize that, like their First Amendment rights were like under attack, like so obviously, and like that means our First Amendment rights, like it's the entire country's First Amendment rights, because we don't know what's going to happen if this continues, like what the Trump administration might do.
Right. But you didn't say that.
Yeah.
And I don't get any link between the Trump administration's behavior and this thing happening.
I tried to stay away from talking about our side, because I figured this was more of a essay about or speech about political discourse than about either party.
Well, no, this was about, this talked about President Trump. Just ask you to talk a little bit about him too, because it was in the topic you were given. So, on your main body, where your thesis was that you were trying to prove there's no political discourse, you cited the Washington Post and you cited the title, but you forgot to cite the date.
Yes.
And so, again, I would urge all of you to watch the YouTube Extemp topic that I gave you as a model, and watch it and take note from how she set up the speech and how she went about. You could say, well, hey, it's down there at the bottom in the footnote. Well, the audience can't read the footnote, right? So that's not enough. So your point here was resentment shows that there's an increasing rise of violence incited by the left. Okay? Great. There's increasing violence incited by the left. That's true. That doesn't prove there's no political discourse. That just improves there's increasing violence incited by the left. And I kind of agree with you. There's evidence that that's happening. Right? Okay, division, yeah. Pew Research in 2015. My comment to you would be there's more recent stuff from Pew. They put stuff out every month, so find more recent stuff. And you say Democrats think Republicans are distrustful, and Republicans feel the same way about Democrats. And so, yeah, right. There is, in terms of this thing, that's a pretty good thing about, there's distrust on both sides. And then you cited climate change and gun control, but I didn't get the link between political discourse and no political discourse and those two issues. There's a guy at Yale, a law professor, that does work on why people hold the opinions they do on climate change, and it would surprise you. It's people think that it's just a bunch of right-wing nuts and know-nothing people that hold that opinion, that there are problems with the climate change argumentation. But he's found that's not necessarily so. And if you're interested, I can give you a full citation on that. Okay, on polarization, you did define, you used Merriam-Webster to define it, and that was Good. So you gave us an idea of what that meant. Tendency to make decisions are more extreme than the inclination of its members. And then you attributed it all to the left, but I didn't hear much of a sourcing on that except from above. I needed better sourcing on that. The summary, you said, I've shown you 3 reasons why I believe our political state of discourse is, you said, resentful, divided, and polarized, but your original point was it doesn't exist. So in conclusion, we have no political discourse. I don't think you proved that. I don't think you proved that case. And your tie back, you started with the quotation of your girlfriend from Starbucks, and so I wanted you, when you tie back, you start with your introductory story. So you say, if you don't want to hear about a lot more Starbucks being burned down, then I think we better try to do something about the sorry state of political discourse in our country. And vividly tie back to the actual story you used. That would be a better tie back, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you for going first, Leonard. Okay, Next, do we have a volunteer? Okay, who's I'll go?
Mitchell?
B. Mitchell Reed, okay. Well, I didn't look over this way.
The last speech was 4 minutes. So.
4 minutes. Okay, 4 minutes. Okay, good. Thank you.
In terms of topic, you told me to alter mine a little bit.
Oh, I did. Oh, because it's outdated or something? Because of the shutdown issue? Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, you're good. Let me just get you focused. Good. Mitchell stands before you, managing attention. Make sure everyone's looking at you. All eyeballs are upon you. Okay. No one's got their computer open or they're texting. Finding friendly eyes. You're the front and the center. Say your name. Feel a little love. Start your speech.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Mitchell.
Hi, Mitchell.
Our country needs a good shutdown, is what Donald Trump tweeted back in May. August 22nd, Trump again threatened a government shutdown on the premise of Congress refusing to fund his Great Wall of America. First off, what is a government shutdown? Is it the end of the United States? The end of the world? Anarchy? While it may not be as bad as it sounds, a government shutdown still is not something we want. A government shutdown occurs when basically Congress and the President can't agree on a budget, and all government services deemed non-essential are shut down. Today, I want to answer the question, how would a government shutdown affect the United States? Is there really such a thing as Donald Trump states, a good government shutdown? Well, my answer is no, and there are 3 reasons behind my stance. First, it shaves off a portion of economic growth. Second, it causes political instability. And 3, it halts a large number of programs and services. Now, realize this topic is important for everyone because no matter who you are, if a government shutdown were to occur, it would affect everyone, whether directly or indirectly. So first, a government shutdown would affect the United States disastrously because it would shave off a portion of economic growth. This can be seen from the clearest example of the 2013 government shutdown. So what happened? All trading licenses were suspended, all applications for new licenses were put on hold, and this resulted in billions of dollars worth of exports just sitting in US ports at a standstill. Another portion of economic growth that's very important is jobs and job creation, and this was also deeply impacted. According to a report by the Council of Economic Advisors in 2013, this led to 120,000 potential jobs lost in just a span of 2 weeks, 80,000 government workers furloughed indefinitely, and an additional 1.3 million workers were asked to keep working without pay. A second reason why a government shutdown would be bad for the United States is that it causes political instability. Not only does it add fuel to the already raging fire between the Democrats and the Republicans, it causes problems globally as well. So how does it do this? Well, first of all, you have to understand that the United States is able to borrow large sums of money from other countries at a very low cost because of our good credit score. If a government shutdown were to occur, this would undermine our creditworthiness. How so? It would let the rest of the world know that our government is only partially functioning, and that's just not a good look for the United States. So if this were to happen, the rate at which we borrow money from other countries would increase. And now that we're still going to be borrowing money, and now that the rate at which we borrow increases from before, where does this extra money come from? Well, it comes from us. It comes from taxpayer dollars. And according to an article by The Economist in 2013, this would increase the amount at which taxpayers pay by billions of dollars, and worst case scenario, could lead to an American default on our loans, which would send America spiraling back into a financial crisis and cause global financial catastrophe. All right, the third reason why a government shutdown is bad for the United States is that it halts a large number of programs and services. All right, so let's name a few of them. Shut down national parks, health and safety inspections, public health monitoring, the Small Business Administration, tax refunds, just to name a few. There are many more. So what would happen as a result of all these programs and services being shut down? Well, all right, an analysis done by the United States Government Publishing Office in 2013 again, the programs I just listed, plus all the other ones that would be shut down, would result in 6.6 million days of work lost and $3 billion lost in revenue. In summary, I have shown you 3 reasons why I believe a government shutdown would be bad for the United States. It shaves off a portion of economic growth, it causes political instability, and it halts a large number of programs and services. So there should be no doubt in this room that if a government shutdown were to occur, it would be disastrous for the United States and potentially abroad as well. So the next time Donald Trump suggests a good government shutdown, let's keep the best interests of the United States at heart.
Thank you. Let us hear what's my time.
4:16.
4:16? 4:16? Okay, so you had a full minute left. And where's the Apple Watch? How much time do I have on my hard disk?
7 minutes.
7 minutes, so we'll have to make this count. Okay, let's go here. What would you like?
Hi, I'm Ancia.
Hi, Ancia.
Yeah, I thought your speech was really fluent. I was really impressed by the way that your statistics and the information that you were giving was smoothly incorporated within your speech. So it didn't seem like you were forgetting or trying to it was not haphazard. It flowed really smoothly, which was kind of cool.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Improvement.
Hi, Candace.
Hi, Candace.
So you did a really good job, and you should be really proud of yourself. The only thing I can think of is maybe between sentences, take a little bit of a pause so that everything doesn't kind of run together.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Good. You give me a countdown.
Okay, you have 6 minutes.
6 minutes. Mitchell, it was a really excellent speech. I want you to slow down. Big picture stuff first. If I run out of time, I'll skip the minutia. I'd like to see you work on a more emphatic style of delivery where it's not all the same. It's not all rush. So work on going through this outline and yellowing key things and working with somebody live that listens to you and tells you, just yell it out. Hold on, my countdown, because I'm not going to look around. Just say 5 left. Like that. 5 left, thanks. So just tell the person you're working with that you want to emphasize keywords and then see that you do that. So that's sort of the big thing. Your citation and your research was excellent. You really made your case against a government shutdown. I do think that one of the things that you didn't talk about, but is that really pisses people off, the voters and the people that don't have these services, and they usually take it out on the party that did it. And, so it's really fraught with peril, and you could have talked about some of the political dimensions of this. So, you cited Donald Trump, I guess, and I appreciate you calling him President Trump at the end and not referring to him as Trump. That was good. And so you started with him, and that was fine because after all, he is our leader, and he likes to get up at 3:30 and say what's on his mind after he goes to the bathroom, I guess. And you know, if different things come out of his mouth, so to speak, and this thing about the shutdown was one of them. And none of this is really very well thought out, but you're right, it probably was in relation to his wall, his great wall. And your answer, does a good shutdown exist? And your answer was no, and an emphatic no. How many? 3 minutes. And your preview was excellent. You numbered it. My only suggestion on your significant statement would be a little more specific toward this audience. Affects everyone. It'll affect you guys. You won't get your student loan checks or try to play it to them. On your first argument, you quoted good sources and statistics about the loss of jobs, people working without pay. You talked about our global creditworthiness, which was excellent. And you cited The Economist, my favorite magazine, of talking about the dangers and the harms throwing us into a recession and a global crisis. Really good. And your third, your government shutdown, and you talked about parks and other things like that. I would have really rated the horrible, since you had really a whole minute left, really, of all the different things that would be lost. Your summary, your conclusion, and tie back were all really good, really excellent. It really seemed like you had practiced it. I agree with NCA, you were very fluid. Just slow down, put some more stuff into this, and perhaps you add time if you could put a story in of storytelling, that would be good. But this was a really excellent job in making a case on a public policy issue against having a government shutdown. So thank you, and I will now turn off the camera.